Welcome in, welcome in. This is Chev, aka Titans apologist numero uno, aka your favorite podcaster, aka co-host of the Dynasty Pulse, aka co-host of Player Profiler News Today on Fridays at 6 p.m. Central. And I'm here today to talk to you about the recap of the season and where this needs to go. This is more so an emergency state of the state because there were some unexpected happenings that have happened, and I want to get into that with you. So I'm just coming to you straight from the palatial dojo estate, in which happens to be my closet in my home, and I wanted to just kind of recap what happened. Yeah, we secured the bag with the number one pick. Um, Beyond that, we're now looking for a GM. There was a slight case of potential imposter syndrome and just not really necessarily understanding the assignment that comes with being an NFL GM. And so we're looking for a new GM. We're looking for a new quarterback. We're trying to find out if we got the right coach. And all of that alludes to Amy Adams is the problem. Let's keep it a buck here. Amy Adams is a stinking problem. And that's a day. That's not for today. We're here to talk football ops. That's a broader scale, 100-foot view problem. And I won't get into that explicitly today. What I will do is say bad ownership leads to teams being bad for a really long time. And now we're on our fourth GM in the last 9 years. So if you want to run down to that, feel free to add me at Chev90 on the platform formerly known as Twitter. And I will gladly go into we can engage in positive discourse about where the franchise needs to go. So we've secured the bag. We've got the number one pick. Now what? And conventional wisdom would say, hey, you don't have a quarterback because Will Levis is your quarterback. And that's not good. So where do we go? I land on let's start over. So before I thought we could get the number one pick and we're going to be in that 4 or 5 range, I said, hey, bring me Cam Ward 2025. The full agenda was in play. I thought that Travis Hunter would be gone. And now that Travis Hunter is not gone, my answer is definitively bring me Travis Hunter. Go get us a bridge quarterback, re-roll in 2026. That's where I am. Feel free to let me know if you agree or disagree. The second order of business, we need a green dot linebacker in the front seven. For those of you who don't know what a green dot linebacker is, it is the guy who calls the signals on the defense. Now, we did trade for Ernest Jones early in the preseason. We were able to secure him for a 5th round pick, but then we traded him away to the Seattle Seahawks back into the NFC West for reasons unknown when we had another year to, and someone fact check me if I'm wrong on this, we had another year to be able to have him in the building and signal calling. And there's a linear correlation between Ernest Jones entering Seattle, their defense's rise from being a run sieve to our defense's demise when we acquired Jerome Baker, and our defense's performance against running backs. Jeff and T'Vondre Sweat can only do so much. There's got to be a guy. As a former defensive tackle, I will tell you this. It doesn't matter how good you are. If there's not a guy willing to stick his face in there and fill the backside gaps, it's not going to be you're not going to be able to secure the run game and stop the run, which is something that we've been predicated on for years. Under Vrabel, that was kind of a staple. And I thought that we were going to get back to that a bit more this year. We had it up until we traded Ernest Jones, and which brings me to my next point. I was a big fan. I did not realize that there were some political greasings and, politicking that you had to do that wasn't getting done. And so when things go sideways like this, it's important to note that the media, somebody has to be able to expound upon your vision and be a mouthpiece in rooms that you're not in. And that to me is fatal flaw number one that he made. We can get into a few of the other things that I think that are circulating now amongst Titans faithful, if you will, about him leaving Will Levis's pro day early, him not being present during film evaluation, during away games where he had policy. That all lends itself to the fact that he didn't quite understand the assignment to the degree in which he needed to in order to survive a catastrophic season by all accounts, because of the fact that he took the job on the premise that we weren't a total rebuild. And I don't think that we were a total rebuild until some decisions were made. I think that Will Levis was shockingly bad. He was who he showed you that he was his senior year at Kentucky, as opposed to his junior year at Kentucky, where he was operating and dealing behind an offensive line that was much more equipped to keep him upright and keep him comfortable. I mean, the sack rate, pressure to sack rate, all of the ugly things that made him fall out of potentially being a top 5 pick in 2022 and being a second round pick that we felt okay about. I mean, this was, like I said, that was a guy that was a top 5 pick if he comes out in 2022, and he's somebody else's problem. But he goes back to school, he gets bumped down a little bit. We're thinking that we could probably get a poor man's Justin Herbert out of him. He comes out, he throws 4 touchdowns in his first debut, throws 4 touchdowns the rest of the season. 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, but it doesn't factor in turnover-worthy plays. And he turned the sliders all the way to 99 for the turnover-worthy plays this season in comical meme master fashion. And so that landed us in a spot that, as the Macho Man would say, unjustifiably placed in a position I'd rather not be in. Yeah. So with that being said, we have to get a quarterback. I think it's incorrect process to take a quarterback with a pick, with a player like Travis Hunter available. And I say that because, bear with me one second, we'll grab something to drink. I say that with my whole chest because I do think Travis Hunter is generational. And you can come back to this in a year, 2 years, whatever, if Cam Ward's performing well for the Cleveland Browns or whatever franchise he's with. If he's with the Titans, God bless him. He'll have my support 100%. But I still will stand on the fact that when there's a generational player available, you take the talent, you figure it out. We've seen this time and time again. Teams draft for need, acting like you act like there's not something. There's something there that there's not. Is Cam Ward the second coming of Joe Burrow, number 1 overall pick? No. I don't think he's that good. I think he's extremely poised. I mean, that's a young man with sand and poise. Okay? That's shout out to E. I let the cat out of the bag. They're gonna know we talk about guys who got sand and guys who don't. I mean, if you hadn't seen the movie Django, check out the movie Django where he's talking about the guys at LaQuint Dickey, and he talks about guys that have sand. I don't think Cam Ward as a prospect checks off enough boxes for me to be able to say, hey, I should take him with the number 1 pick. I don't feel that way. I won't feel that way. I think Travis Hunter checks off all those boxes. That is, to me, the best cornerback prospect that you'll see. I mean, if he played full-time corner, he's unquestionably a top 5 pick. And I think he has the athleticism with more suddenness and change of direction than a guy like George Pickens So that's a similar ceiling that you could have as an offensive player. And I think that the combine is going to solidify everything that I believe about his athleticism. So, yeah, I think it's Travis Hunter. And then we've got $62 million in cap space. So for me, I think the biggest thing is, where do we shore up the offensive line? I think it would go a long way to secure the bag for a guy like Trey Smith, a guy like Will Fries. One of those guys could come in and instantly be a tone setter on the right side of the offensive line. You heard me talk about that time and time again. I'm firmly of the belief that these guys, the guys that we have on the right side right now, and Radons and Nicholas Petit Frere and whatever the amalgamation is of right tackle that's gonna, that we rolled out this year, we can't keep doing that. Part of the reason that Will Levis was so jittery in the pocket is because he couldn't have confidence in what was coming from the front side. And that's going to change anything for any quarterback. Now, I do not excuse his play one iota. I don't. I can't. I won't. And that being said, it's we got changes coming. And if we are going to we are going to capitulate and take Cam Ward and feel like we've solved our QB problem, if we're going to make a 4D chess move and take hire Louis Riddick, who's been, the praises of Louis Riddick have been sung by one Deion Sanders, and take Shedeur Sanders. The most important thing is we've seen what it looks like. So let's not fail organizationally, and let's just not fail organizationally and fail this quarterback like we failed guys in the past. I mean, we failed Vince Young because Jeff Fisher did not want Vince Young. He wanted Matt Leinart. Anyway, we failed as an organization when we took Jake Locker with the 8th overall pick. Anyway, we failed Marcus Mariota as a franchise quarterback because we didn't surround him with talent enough and give him enough continuity for him to grow and develop into an NFL and into a professional that was able to make the decisions that would that a franchise quarterback should be able to process and make, because he had to worry about too many other things. The biggest part of being a successful franchise is understanding your quarterback's strengths and tailoring to them. Well, changing offensive coordinators constantly isn't that. Not having the proper protections afforded to your franchise quarterback to keep him, to take that off of the bucket list of worry, that ain't it. It's not. These aren't things that you can address, that you can fail to address and then ask your quarterback to overcome and hope for a favorable outcome. So those are 3 quarterbacks that we failed miserably. Now, you can lament the successes of Ryan Tannehill. Honestly, we weren't even featuring Derrick Henry during Mariota's tenure fully. I mean, that didn't happen until he was splitting carries with Dion Lewis with Matt LaFleur as the offensive coordinator, which led me to believe that Matt LaFleur didn't know ball. However, I mean, we've seen that our guy Matt LaFleur knows a tremendous amount of ball, and that might have fallen as a Vrabel decision. Another cool thing. I mean, we mishandled the A.J. Brown situation with John Robinson, who decided to re-roll. He was just re-rolling and not signing free agents. I mean, we let Jack Conklin walk after a first-team All-Pro rookie season. I mean, that to me, without injuries, cements the fact that, you've earned a second contract, bud. Corey Davis wasn't offered a second contract. He never lived up to the billing of a 5th-round pick, but he did have a 985-yard season in 13 games. I think that had a lot to do with that had a lot to do with organizational structure and the fact that he just wasn't featured or groomed in a way. There's some guys who you have to who have it and have to go, who are on go from day one. Malik Neighbors would be an example of that. Brian Thomas Jr. would be an example of that. CeeDee Lamb is an example of that. Now you say JC, but CeeDee Lamb only had 930 yards and 6 touchdowns. He did that with Andy Dalton. Okay, he was ready to go. If he would have had Dak, they would already have a mural of CeeDee Lamb snatching his phone from his girlfriend up in Cowboy Stadium, even though they haven't won a Super Bowl with 8s yet. So there's guys that are ready to go, and there's guys that you have to groom and teach them how to be a professional. And I think Corey Davis fell in that category. A.J. Brown was a day one. He didn't even get snaps in the beginning because Vrabel. I'm not saying that Vrabel's not a great coach. I'll say good. I'm not saying that Vrabel's not a good coach, but some of the decisions and the things he was doing with rookies just weren't. I mean, the only rookie I think he ever really liked was Jeff Simmons, and that's because if you don't like Jeff Simmons, he's going to hit you with the double birds and probably hit you with an RKO from the top rope. So I don't really think he leaves you with much choice. And then you watch him play American tackle football, and it's like, that boy's cooking. So, yeah, I mean, he's super talented. We have foundational pieces. Jeff Simmons on his second contract. That was something that John Robinson just didn't do. Adoree Jackson, former 18th pick in the draft, let him walk. Jayon Brown, 5th-round pick, smash, coverage linebacker, let him walk. A.J. Brown traded to the Eagles for what ended up being Treylon Burks. Didn't get a second contract, let him walk. This is the kind of organizational instability that makes not only free agents not want to come to you, but your building becomes trepidatious about, is my performance going to be rewarded in an environment that I'm familiar with? And that's a culture problem, if we're being honest. And that starts with Amy Adams. But again, we're not going to get into that today, although I do think she's a large part of the problem. Like I said, 4th GM, 9 years. There seems to be a feud between coach and GM every single year, and she picks the wrong person to side with. You let Derrick Henry walk, which it's right to let him go pursue a Super Bowl. I do have the Ravens potentially moving into their first Super Bowl since 2012. There's an interesting stat about that, by the way. The Ravens win the Super Bowl every 12 years with a 28-year-old quarterback. So do with that information what you will. However, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're going to talk about the fire sale that went on. Again, traded Ernest Jones. Will Levis didn't pan out. Rand took the job on the premise that we were a team that did not require a full rebuild. And that's something that I feel like once you set sail, you got to stay the course, man. You can't backtrack, you can't backpedal. If you're going to make a move for a guy like Ernest Jones, you've got to be willing to keep Ernest Jones in the building. I mean, you're talking about Cheeto Awuzie. I mean, he hit on. So in his tenure, let's just review the draft picks. They'll highlight some of the more effective draft picks. You had Peter Skoronski, who's been, a day one starter. That's a really good pick. Had he not gotten appendicitis, his rookie year would have been much stronger. Then you come back with Tyjae Spears in the 3rd round. That's smash pick. One of the best satellite backs and a guy who I believe could duplicate the type of success Bucky Irving had if given the work. You signed Tony Pollard in free agency. That was a tremendous move. You went and signed Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams was cooked, but it is what it is, man. You're just taking a flyer to see if there's something that he can add to the room. In this draft class, you have a guy like Jaquan Jackson, special teamer, able to come in, even though he did not produce immediately. I love that pick. then working back to the top. You had J.C. Latham. I thought we were going to get Joe Alt. The Chargers had their eyes set on him. He's right. He's an all-pro caliber right tackle, but we got a guy in J.C. Latham playing left tackle. Now, do I think that we should go out and – I mean, J.C. Latham was an all-American right tackle at the University of Alabama. He was moved there because he wanted to get on the field faster, and Evan Neal was the left tackle at Alabama. So he moved there seamlessly because he's a freak athlete, and he did well. He did pretty well this season at left tackle, which is what he played in high school. And honestly, if you can finagle a way to get a franchise left tackle and move him to right, that solves some of the issues. I'm not sure that can happen though. So I'm cool if he stays at left and you build around he and Skoronski and Quessenberry and just being able to, I mean, obviously this was an effective line. You have the legendary Bill Callahan coaching the offensive line, but there's just not much you could do over on that side, on that right side with Ray Duns and Nicholas Petit-Frere and whoever else you're going to throw in there. Moving to our second round pick, T'Vondre Sweat. T'Vondre Sweat was a stud. No questions asked. I mean, I was skeptical of the pick because as a former defensive tackle, I have a problem with guys who won't control their weight. And it looked to me at the Senior Bowl, just from looking at the tape, that he had ballooned to close to 400 pounds, and there was not going to be he was going to be more of a Terrence Cody than an Ndamukong Suh, and he proved me wrong. That was a smash. And then, I mean, I wanted Edgerrin Cooper there. Edgerrin Cooper is a damn fine. I mean, damn fine inside linebacker, probably the best inside linebacker in this class, and will be one of the best inside linebackers in the league. But we got us one in T'Vondre Sweat, so I was cool with that. And then our fourth round pick, Cedric Gray, injuries, jury's out. Then we'll talk about some of the free agent moves, notable being we traded what ended up being the first pick in the third round for L'Jarius Sneed. Right move. L'Jarius Sneed had a Revis Light season in 2023, and I stand on that. If you look at some of the receivers he matched up against, now, he did get cooked by A.J. Brown a couple times, and the ball just wasn't thrown to him. That's going to happen. I mean, there's plays where he probably had incredible coverage and the ball wasn't thrown his way either. And I think that he's going to be a net plus if he's committed to the organization. I mean, he got his bag, so financially he's committed. I want to know if he is fully committed to the organization and being a positive influence in this turnaround. So you're pairing Travis Hunter up with a guy like L'Jarius Sneed. You've got Jarvis Brownlee, who is a monster. Let me not hyperbolize too much. Jarvis Brownlee is a very, very, very good NFL corner with a very bright future. I think we were getting what we thought we were getting with Roger McCreary. Roger McCreary is a good NFL player. I don't think that he has the type of ceiling athletically that Jarvis Brownlee has. And then another corner that we went and signed in free agency, Cheeto Awuzie. Cheeto was solid. That's about as much as I could say. He was solid. It wasn't spectacular, but it's hard for anybody to look spectacular when you're constantly taking the field on sudden changes and not being able to settle in, not being able to key on routes. You know, teams are just kind of throwing it deep and seeing if you're asleep when you're constantly taking the field on short fields. I mean, back half of the season, man, it was just, you know, we had guys getting their eyes bad because of the fact that we're giving up 92-yard touchdown runs. We're giving up 270 yards rushing against the Commanders. Almost 300 yards rushing, if not 300 yards rushing against the Colts. 92-yard touchdown runs. to Damian Pierce, the corpse of Damian Pierce. You know, oh, also another draft highlight. James Williams. Remember that name. That guy is going to be. If we can figure out how to get him into the right role, James Williams is going to be a stud. If you're not familiar, just type in James Williams, Miami on TikTok. He is something special. But a couple things, like I said, I would like to see us do. One, I would like to see us draft Travis Hunter. If we're not going to do that, I would love to see us either trade back or, and then we could still get one of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. And if both those guys are gone, Abdul Carter, and then address the quarterback position in free agency. This is not a deep quarterback class. And if J.J. McCarthy were available in this class, he would assuredly be the number one. So I don't believe in taking a quarterback. I believe in drafting talent, not need. And you've kind of seen that build with Brad Holmes and the Lions and Dan Campbell. And that's another thing that I'd like to allude to. There has to be an alignment at the top between schematically what you need, what the GM's vision is, and getting players that fit what your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, and your head coach say about their scheme fit and their culture fit. The Detroit Lions have, I feel very confident in saying they have 53 of 53 culture fits in the building, and that's something that's hard to beat, man. It just is. Shout out to them. I want us to be headed in that direction. Then moving on, like I said, I would love to see us get a guy like Trey Smith in free agency. Kansas City's facing some cap issues upcoming. I don't know off the top of my head how much cap space they have, but I know that they're probably going to be looking at redoing. They just re-upped Chris Jones. They're gonna have to re-up Mahomes to a more relevant contract, more market relevant contract. I think he's at 10 years, $450 million. So those numbers always seem real, but whatever. So going and getting a guy like Trey Smith or Will Fries would be a step in the right direction in building the team in the trenches, which is what another thing that Detroit's done. That's a beautiful master stroke. Hey, we got guys that whoop ass up front. If you're not trying to get into a fight, we don't want it. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer in building a team that way. You've seen teams have immense offensive success just because they've got a bunch of ass kickers up front in their offensive and defensive lines. And that's something that is very important to me. And then getting a green dot back in the building, a linebacker. I need to do my research on this inside linebacker class and what the free agent market holds, but I really do believe that that's going to be another key cog in making a difference. Kenneth Murray had some flashes. He played as good in coverage as I've seen him play, but he would be better just run, chase, hit. I think that, a guy like Ernest Jones would have helped continue to solidify that front seven with the talent that we already have. Again, this is not a poor me type of final address for the Titans. I'll be back periodically to kind of update you on what I'm thinking and what I like and breaking down some prospects, guys that I think would be scheme fits. I'll definitely be back when we're talking about what I feel like the new GM, what I know about him, what will accomplish or what should be accomplished, and what would make me feel like this is headed in the right direction. I mean, honestly, what would make me feel the most like we're headed in the right direction is Amy Adams selling the team. But hey, we're not here for that. And that's probably not going to happen because you can't make billionaires do something they don't want to do unless they do weird stuff. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So, those are just a few things that I would love to see. I'd love to see happen. There's a wish list thing that I'm going to leave you guys with. How would you feel if Cam Ward is the pick, if we were then able to throw a bag at T. Higgins and bring him back to Middle Tennessee, where he's from? Let me know. And with that, this has been the Titans recap. We're having a fire sale, and we're going to be rebuilding and looking for rebuilding. We're going to retool and reload for 2025. This is a very winnable division. I mean, you saw the Texans kind of take a step back. They weren't the world beaters everybody thought they were. The Colts have their obvious issues in the building between Colts alumni and Colts players, and just them not having players that their fan base actually likes. And the Jaguars are the Jaguars. Whew, God, hopefully they don't get Ben Johnson, because I've seen rumors that Ben Johnson and Mark Brunell are coming as a package item to coach up Trevor Lawrence. And if that does happen, that'll be like Skynet taking over. But no need for nightmare fuel. We're focused on the Titans right now, 2025, doing what we need to do to build a foundation, rebuild a foundation, retool, and use the current opportunities, to speak in corporate America, to make sure that we're on the right path and putting a watchable, fun product back on the field for the two-tone blue. So with that, I am Justin Curry, a.k.a. JC, a.k.a. Chev90, a.k.a. your favorite podcaster, and I will be back with you periodically to tap in and let you know what I think, what's happening, what needs to happen over the course of the offseason. Y'all take care, tighten up, and tighten up.